The news that broke earlier today, Arsenal's opening bid for Bruno Guimaraes has been rejected by Newcastle, perhaps understandably given the upheaval they've already had at St James's Park this summer, Mark. But what more can you tell us in this one?
Yes, you have to feel for Newcastle United fans. Anthony Gordon, Sandro Tonali, players that they love and respected. But this is a very different source. Bruno Guimaraes has said quite publicly he loves this club, the city, the fans. And every single Newcastle fan would say he really understood what we are about. So to see him depart St James's Park would be a huge blow. We know there's been significant developments. And of course, there's been a lot of speculation and talk over the last few weeks now. And it feels like it's becoming a little bit of a saga. But there was breaking news on Sky Sports News earlier on today because the Arsenal opening bid for Bruno Guimaraes has been rejected by Newcastle, but talks continue. We know now that there is club-to-club talk, and despite all the noise on social media and all the transfer agitators saying that they've been speaking for weeks and weeks and weeks, we understand that this contact between Arsenal and Newcastle has only really happened in the last 24 hours. Offer rejected, but of course, we know it's not going to finish there.
No, James, we expect Arsenal to go back in with another offer.
I think we would. I think considering this has been a long-standing interest they've had in the player, you'd expect them to go in once more. We wait to see what level they go to and whether Newcastle ultimately accept it. But I think the way things are moving, I think it's more likely than not that he will be an Arsenal player. In terms of what we know about his movements at the moment, he's been travelling to Spain today to be part of Newcastle's pre-season camp. Now, he left Brazil yesterday. There was an understanding, I think, that he was due to be at the training camp yesterday, but there's been an agreement with the club that he'd turn up today. So we know he's publicly told the club he wants to leave in this transfer window. It's whether or not Arsenal get the money they want in this, will get up to the money that Newcastle want, because Newcastle have had a really, really difficult summer. Let's bear in mind some of the names that have departed. Kieran Trippier, people forget about him, that experience.
Like a kind of Jordan Henderson, that leadership in the dressing room.
Exactly. And then you've got the superstars that have departed. You've got Alexander Isak last summer, but already in this transfer window, Sandro Tonali is gone, Anthony Gordon's gone. And if you were a betting man, you'd say Bruno Guimaraes is heading out the door as well.
And they've lost their manager on top of all that as well.
And Newcastle hold the cards here as well, because, as James said, they've already sold £170 million worth of talent. So they don't need to generate money to invest in the younger players that they're buying. And Bruno Guimaraes has 2 years left on his Newcastle contract, with the option of another year, so it would make it a 3-year deal from the club's perspective. So they are absolutely in a position of strength and power where they can say, look, we respect you, but ultimately you're going nowhere. And yes, unless Arsenal pay what we want.
I think the last thing they would want, though, Newcastle, is a situation they got themselves into last summer with Alexander Isak. Yes, brilliant. They got £125 million, a transfer record in this country. But the effect it had on them and their start of the season, I mean, already it's been a really frustrating pre-season for Newcastle fans. And now they've seen their manager depart as well. They want a swift resolution. So they'll give Arsenal what the asking price is. They want Arsenal to get to that so this can be finalised and they can then reinvest in this squad once more, because the last thing Newcastle need is another transfer saga, which this is already threatening to become with all the talks that have gone on behind the scenes. But now at least we have that club-to-club contact.
On the subject of frustrating pre-seasons, Mark, look, they're champions of England, and Arsenal fans might turn around and say, we're perfectly happy with the squad the way it is. It's now August the 3rd. We're, 18 days away from the season starting? Why have Arsenal taken so long to even get round to putting this offer in?
Every single Premier League club, every single sporting director will have a different philosophy and different tactics to the way they negotiate and do deals. You know, Daniel Levy was a fierce negotiator. Karen Brady was a very fierce negotiator, and they got what they absolutely wanted and needed for their respective clubs. Tony Bloom and Paul Barber at Brighton, the same. Look at the money that they have generated from sales. They are very difficult to do business with because they have their tactics. And this is how they do things. Now, Andrea Berta at Arsenal, sporting director, very similar, has his own tactics and style, lets the noise happen around the deal, and then will come in and swoop and get the deal done at the last moment. So it's just a way that things evolve. And you have to say that, you know, Arsenal have sort of been very quiet in all of this. And up until the last 24 hours, to our knowledge, that's the first point we've had club-to-club contact between Newcastle and Arsenal. So I'd actually say they're just doing what they want to do at the pace and tone that they want to do it at. And therefore, the noise that gets created, because we know how much noise is created with transfers, with social media, with all these transfer influencers and reporters, it all adds to the melting pot. But until Arsenal and Newcastle get there to start stirring, nothing's going to happen. It just bubbles away, and that's what's been happening. And now they'll feel, right, we're in a really good position now. That opening offer might have been rejected. However, let's keep this dialogue going and see if we can get to what Newcastle want.
Well, will Andrea be swooping for Vinicius Junior? Because Bruno Guimaraes, not the only man on Arsenal's radar. They do have an interest in signing this man here. This, Mark, seems to be like, he's going to stay at Madrid. No, he isn't. Oh, he's going to. Where are we now?
The Premier League champions want a marquee signing this summer. Would Vinicius Junior from Real Madrid be that player? Absolutely. Yes. He ticks all of those boxes. But this is not something that's a simple deal to make happen, because he is on huge, astronomical, ginormous wages. So Arsenal would completely have to restructure what they pay. And that's not always simple, because there will be other players at the football club that will walk in and say, well, hang on a second, why is this player being paid twice what I'm being paid? You know, I'm the captain, I'm the star man, I'm the goal scorer, I'm the star winger, I've come through the academy, whichever player. So you have to make sure you get the numbers right, otherwise it's a deal that won't happen. And at Real Madrid, he is on significant wages. And you've also seen this a lot in the past as well. Players at Real Madrid and players at other big clubs use interest from Premier League sides to just get them a little bit more of a sexy deal where they are. They can go and say, well, actually, I've got interest from the Premier League champions. You know, if you want me to stay at Real Madrid, you're going to have to give me a really good bumper contract. I want to stay, although there has been noises in the public domain that actually he'd be open and interested in potentially going to play for Arsenal. However, you just have to take it at face value. Huge wages. Arsenal would have to break their wage structure. Could this also be used as a vehicle for him to get a new deal at Real Madrid and play for Jose Mourinho? So, one to keep an eye on, but we know that there is definite interest.
Yeah, we've seen it so many times. Real Madrid players, 1 year, 2 years left in their contract, touted around into Premier League clubs. Manchester United have been caught coupled with this many times. And Aurelio Tchouameni as well, he was a player who Manchester United wanted in this transfer window. He's got a new contract at Real Madrid as well. But he has reported to pre-season training today, as expected. Jose Mourinho wants to keep him. Real Madrid, no intention of selling him whatsoever. But as we know, 1 year left in his contract. They don't want to be in a situation. They've done it to so many clubs in the past, signing those players as free agents. They did it with Mbappe. Yeah. We've seen that before. They don't want to be in a similar situation where next summer they're seeing Vinicius Junior go to Arsenal or another club in the Premier League or across Europe for absolutely nothing.
It's usually the destination Real Madrid rather than a stepping stone, isn't it? So it would be some coup. Right. And on the subject of Chelsea, James, some news just into us. What can you tell us?
Yeah, a confirmed outgoing. Trevor Chalobah is likely to become a Como player because the clubs have agreed a deal now. You can see at the bottom of your screen, £32.8 million is the total package. We understand it's €30 million up front, which is £25.7 million, and then a further £5.1 million in add-ons, which takes it up to that fee there of £32.8 million. Now, these two clubs have been in dialogue for over a month, well over a month. Como trying to get the best deal. Chelsea also trying to get as much as they could for the academy graduate. But that deal now has been agreed. Personal terms have already been agreed. So this deal will be finalised over the course of the next few days. It's been lengthier than negotiations for this to happen. But Como have been desperate to get Trevor Chalobah in. They are going to get him in now. We heard from Xabi Alonso over the course of the last few days, because with Maxence Lacroix coming in, Chelsea had 10 centre-backs, and he said he only needs 4 or 5. So it was likely there would be departures, and we expect there to be plenty more departures in the centre-back area. The likes of Benoit Badiashile, Axel Disasi, they are likely to depart in this transfer window. But Trevor Chalobah set to join Como, a deal agreed, personal terms agreed as well. He is set to become a Como player.
And you just wonder how much the sort of personal relationship between Xabi Alonso and Cesc Fabregas probably helped sort of grease the wheels with this one as well. I'm sure it was beneficial.
Yeah, and it feels like a good deal for Trevor Chalobah now. I mean, he has been a terrific servant for Chelsea Football Club. Played well over 100 games for pretty much 10 managers, you'd have to say, over his time at the club. He's had spells where he's been away from Chelsea, went on loads of Crystal Palace. They realised they needed him back. And actually last season he played a really important role for the club as well. Thomas Tuchel rates him very highly. He called him up to the England squad for the World Cup. Didn't play a minute, but he expects him to play plenty of minutes in Serie A next season. So again, Chelsea fans will be disappointed to see an academy graduate go, but I think they'll be delighted with what has happened already in this transfer window. Already falling down the pecking order with Maxence Lacroix arriving. We wait to see what formation Xabi Alonso plays, whether it's 3 at the back or 2 at the back in the centre-backs. But Chalobah, he's been a good servant, but clearly not part of the first-team picture this season.
We stay with the Chelsea theme. You can see breaking news alongside me here, because Chelsea have now announced the signing of one of Trevor Chalobah's England teammates this summer. Jordan Henderson, the midfielder, has won 8 trophies in his career, including, of course, the Premier League and the Champions League, has signed a 2-year contract. He'll join his new teammates ahead of the next campaign. This is what Jordan Henderson had to say. Given the size of the club, the manager, who I have great admiration for, the quality of the players, this was a huge opportunity I could not turn down. I was also so impressed with how much the ownership want Chelsea to be successful and move in the right direction. For me, it's about giving everything every single day, both on and off the field, to help the players around me and the team as much as possible. I'm very excited to get going. James, we're seeing a real sort of shift in transfer policy from Chelsea this summer, aren't we? That it used to be sign a load of 20-year-olds and stick them all in 10-year contracts, and there's zero experience in the squad. And not sudden, yeah, we'll bring in Danny Welbeck. Yeah, we'll bring in Jordan Henderson. It's what the squad's been crying out for.
It has been, and I think even when Liam Rossini was in charge earlier on this year, he spoke about the fact there was a need for experience. There was perhaps a bit of an emotional immaturity in that squad. But now you're signing 2 Premier League players who have seen it all, done it all, won it all as well. Danny Welbeck and Jordan Henderson, both Premier League winners. Jordan Henderson winning the Champions League as well. And that experience, you think that will play a key role in Xabi Alonso's first season in charge. It's going to be fascinating to see how many minutes Jordan Henderson actually plays. I think Danny Welbeck, you can expect him to play a lot. I think Chelsea will make some sales when it comes to strikers. But it just shows you, Jordan Henderson, the role that plenty of players have seen over the course of the last few years. He seems to have a role whereby it doesn't matter how much he's featuring on the pitch, but the culture he can help create. It shows Chelsea are really serious about things, and they admit there has been mistakes made in the transfer policy. You rightly said there's been a number of youngsters signed over the course of the last 4 years, but now they've appreciated that there does need to be a tweak in that transfer strategy. And clearly this is a wild extreme they've gone to now, signing 2 players very much towards the back end of their career. I think you argue with Danny Welbeck because he missed so much football due to injury, how he's looked over the course of the last couple of years. Maybe he's got plenty more football left in him. Maybe now we see Cristiano Ronaldo,
35-year-old and a 30-year-old
so
body.
late on. Perhaps they've got plenty more years left in them, but fascinating to see how Chelsea have changed their strategy.
And Mark, as James says, even if he only plays a handful of games, 20 games, we saw it was similar with Thomas Tuchel taking him to the States in the summer. To have a man of Jordan Henderson's experience, been there, seen it, done it, got the T-shirt, is going to be invaluable for that squad.
You speak to anyone in the game, anyone that's been in a dressing room with Jordan Henderson, anyone that was at Liverpool after he departed, they'll say he was a huge loss and he is a massive character. He is the glue that brings so many dressing rooms together, and he's the most professional that you could possibly meet. And his reputation is out there in the game, and everyone knows that. And it's clear, based on what James has said and what Chelsea are trying to do with that dressing room, they need some experienced leaders to knit things together, to make sure that things don't get out of control. Because these days, young kids earning millions and millions of pounds as professional footballers that are idolised and they're celebrated and they have millions of followers on social media, but they don't know always how to deal with that. Yeah. And therefore, that's where you need those experienced pros that can come in and just make sure they put an arm around the right players at the right time. And of course, you speak to any young player that's been through the game, they'll say, well, thanks to this player when I was younger, I became a better player on and crucially off the pitch. And Jordan Henderson and Danny Welbeck are 2 of the best professionals you're going to get. And Chelsea have now got them in the dressing room. And I think that will serve as a massive benefit to those young players, those talented young players that they have. And of course, it follows in what Xabi Alonso wants to do, which is bring Premier League experience into that group. So therefore, they're slowly trying to cook that balance and get that right mixture. And suddenly Chelsea look like could be a real force.
Good piece of business for Chelsea. Just keep him away from those advertising hoardings when he gets to Stamford Bridge this summer. Hello, welcome back. Spurs are in the market for attackers before the transfer window closes. Roberto De Zerbi wants to make at least 2 additions to his forward line. Last week, he teased that a bomba signing could be imminent. Is this man, Cody Gakpo, about to be that bomba?
Yeah, we know that there's interest and we know that the attacking lineup, the attacking side of this new look Roberto De Zerbi Spurs side is something that they're looking to now address in the second phase of the window. We know that they've made some really solid reinforcements at the back, centre-backs, left-backs. However, this is probably now the most expensive area, bearing in mind they've already spent 100 million on Sandro Tonali. We know that there is an interest there with Cody Gakpo. However, Liverpool themselves are in a position where they won't allow players to go unless Andoni Iraola has the squad that he wants. Now, Liverpool, the new Liverpool boss, will say, I want 4 wingers that can play left and right. I don't want my wingers to just be left wingers or just be right wingers. I want them to be versatile, which Cody Gakpo very much is, because he can also play as a false nine, and a younger player, which would probably be Rio and Gamoa as the fifth winger. So Liverpool's stance will be, we'll only let players go if we're really comfortable with the squad that we have. We know that they are in the market for a big marquee signing, which we'll probably talk about later on. However, at the minute, it's just interest.
And as you know, I mean, Andoni Iraola really does run his players into the ground, so he needs as big a squad as he can possibly keep.
Absolutely.
There seems to be no chance Gakpo leaves Liverpool, James, unless they can replace him. And one name that keeps cropping up is Bradley Barcola.
Yeah, and Liverpool are expected to make a formal approach to PSG to try to sign him. PSG, as far as they're concerned, he's not for sale. That's despite the fact he's not seen as one of those players that started the big games at the back end of last season, in the Champions League in particular. But we understand that PSG would want around £145 million in this transfer window. Now, it was thought if they signed Magnus Akliouche, which it looks like they're going to, perhaps that could free up Barcola, but that's not seen to be the case at all. PSG still want to keep Barcola, and they think that Akliouche, they can complement one another. They can play in different areas of the pitch. And on Akliouche, he's expected to undergo a medical with PSG after he returns from the World Cup. They agreed a £42.8 million deal to sign him from Monaco. Akliouche, another target for Liverpool in this transfer window. Whether or not they can get Barcola, I don't think Liverpool are going to be willing to spend that sort of money on a player who didn't fit into PSG's first team last season. But maybe there'll be some room for negotiation with players coming in. But it is our understanding Akliouche coming in has no bearing on what happens with Bradley Barcola in this transfer window.
A little bit of information just before we came on air. There's still been no club-to-club contact between PSG and Liverpool at this stage. A player, like James says, that they very much admire. But there's no point in slinging in an offer if they don't believe that they're close to getting a deal done. If PSG want 145 million, what's the point in Liverpool putting an offer in for 100 million? It's going to get rejected, isn't it? We know that. So therefore, they have to have some sensible conversations when it gets to that point where they can say, well, actually, can we get roughly to where you want? We know your starting price is 145, but actually, come on, let's be honest here. Can we get it down a bit, because we're never going to pay that? And we know that Bradley Barcola doesn't really see a future at PSG. He's not started the key games. He's a little bit frustrated at not being one of the key men, particularly that Champions League final. And he is open to a potential move. And Liverpool, of course, would be a brilliant destination for him. So, yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on. We know that, obviously, they've got a giant Mo Salah-sized hole in that Liverpool attacking lineup.
And you know, I was looking at Liverpool's squad earlier. It's so imbalanced as well. They've got so many sort of defensive players, pretty strong in midfield, and then they're very light up top, aren't they?
And that's something that they're going to have to try and address. But as we said, with regards to Spurs, these players are expensive.
Yeah.
You know, the Yan Diomande deal was a deal they were interested in. They liked the player. However, huge money. And as soon as Real Madrid came to the table, you're not going to win that race, really, are you? So therefore, they've moved on to another player who they like. But as of yet, no club-to-club contact.
Let's return to Newcastle briefly. They've announced the signing of a new goalkeeper today. What more can we tell us about this signing, Mark? James, which one of you wants to field this one?
Well, he's going to come in as first choice. Been signed today, Lucas Hornacek from Braga. Deal worth £25.7 million. We've spoken about Newcastle selling a number of players in this transfer window, but they're going to sign 5 players already in this window. We've got 3 weeks to go into that first game against Liverpool. £140 million spent. It's been so different what Newcastle have done in this transfer window, signing young players with a high ceiling, transfer fees between around £20 and £40 million. So £25.7 million for a goalkeeper, that very much fits the bill in terms of what they're looking to do in this transfer window. One thing it does mean, though, Nick Pope, he may be looking for options elsewhere because it's seen that Hornacek will come in as the first choice starter.
OK, a reminder